All right, it's the Starting Five Friday morning edition. We're recording this on a Thursday night, actually. And as you can see, Carter Elliott is nowhere to be found. I hope that man is drunk on a golf course right now, though probably not because it's late at night on the East Coast. But stepping in to fill his place today is Jason Funk, the one and only Lansing legend, Michigan State Spartan fan extraordinaire. What's up, Funk?
What's going on, guys? Happy to fill in for Cart here. Might end up being like fill in Frank on the PTI side. I know he's always filling in when Kornheiser's out on the golf course. So I know I saw some sort of palm trees with Cart today, and I know he's probably out there shooting like a 112. So happy to fill in.
I think that's generous, my friend. I really
yeah, right. He might be taking that. It's almost an undeniable urge to just take your shots like a car, like when you're on like a film podcast like this, and they just can't defend themselves whatsoever. So,
right.
Too easy, low hanging fruit. But
he knows what he set himself up for. He knows. It's all good. So let's start right away with a tweet that you sent out earlier this week before we even knew that you were going to be doing this about the misery of Detroit sports franchises in general. Obviously, you and I are both big Detroit sports fans, as are most people that listen to the show. It's been a horrible decade plus for some of these teams, but I think you've dug the numbers, you've crunched them, and you might have something to report here.
Yes. So I did a deep dive yesterday. Thankfully, I had a slow day at work so I could dive into this. And I do have to say it wasn't as daunting of a research as I thought, but it's also one of those ones you have to be careful with because you're doing it at work and someone will like pop up on you and be like, yo, like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at like 1973 Philadelphia Phillies season records? And it's like, yeah, I am. So did a deep dive saw some interesting trends amongst teams that you would never typically look at. But anyway, so I narrowed it down to 4. So I was just looking at end of season Pistons, Red Wings, looking at the standings like, wow, we are at the bottom. We've been at the bottom. So I did a deep dive on Detroit. If anyone hadn't seen it or doesn't follow me, did a deep dive on Detroit. The numbers are terrible. The Tigers I had pegged at 28. This is the last 5 years, 19 seasons with the Lions still to be done. We have one playoff appearance. That was a sweep at the hands of the Bucks in 2019 with the Pistons. And then other than that, we're 1 for 19, and I would be willing to wager that the Lions will miss this year to make it 1 for 20. So then I got to wondering, has any other 4-sport city been through a stretch like this? Because it seems like just no light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming onward. So I did the deep dive. It wasn't as daunting as I thought because there's some cities that can be totally tossed out. So I have 12 other 4-city markets, those being Boston, Los Angeles, Dallas, Denver, San Fran, Oakland. I'm grouping together as the Bay Area. The San Jose Sharks make that a 4-city. New York, Chicago, Philly, Miami, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, and that's the list with Detroit. So there were 6 of them that I got totally ruled out, have never even had a 5-year stretch. It's even worth mentioning in this conversation. Boston with the Celtics pretty much just carry them.
Right.
And the Patriots. So they're just totally out. Los Angeles with the Lakers, they are out. New York with the Yankees, they are out. New York, you can kind of piece together with the Mets, Nets, Jets. There's a little misery there. I don't know exactly the New York dynamics of how you go Knicks, Nets. You know, they have a split of every sport. But even so, it's hard to find one worth mentioning. San Fran, Oakland, they get carried by the Niners, San Francisco Giants. They are not worth mentioning. Dallas and Denver, also not worth mentioning. Cowboys, Broncos, couple of pretty consistent stretches of at least 500 or above. So that brings us down to a couple that are worth mentioning, but to cut to the chase, there's no one close to what we're going through in Detroit right now.
Oh, God.
It's not even close. So the first one I found, 2008 to 2012 Minneapolis teams. We have a total of 5 playoff appearances across 4 teams in that stretch. 0 from the Timberwolves. They were under a .394 winning percentage in all of those seasons. 0 from the Minnesota Wild. And then 2 from the Twins, 3 from the Vikings. No noise to be mentioned. So 5 uninspiring playoff performances there. Philly, I thought I had something here. The 76ers were under 415 winning percentage from 1971 to 75, including a 9-73 campaign in 72-73.
Wow.
Wow. That is bad. Eagles were 500 once. Other than that, under 500 in the midst of a 17-year playoff drought. And the Phillies only went over 500 once. But then I got to the Flyers, and they ruined it. They had 4 playoff appearances, 2 Stanley Cup titles, and 1 loss in the Stanley Cup. So long story short, can't find that misery. It's not close.
This is unprecedented. So, okay, I have a couple follow-ups. First of all, one, the fact that no other big market spot has gone through this makes me think we've got to be close to turning the page, right? Like if no one's even gone 5 years, no way we can go 5 more years of this, right?
You'd like to think, I mean, going 1 for 20, projecting the Lions to miss, you'd like to think that there's not much going forward. But at the same time, who's our best bet? The Pistons? I mean, maybe sliding in the top 3, have a nice little young core, could possibly win the Summer League, which would be a big building block. I think we'll have a very competitive Summer League team.
Yeah.
But it's hard to pick, man. It's tough. It's tough out here right now.
So I threw this out a couple years ago now, but this was before Troy Weaver was with the Pistons, and this was right at the start of the Tigers' quote-unquote rebuild. But it was, what team are you most confident in will win a championship next? And it was split all over the place. But I don't even want to go championship now. Like, what team are you most confident could win a playoff series at this point? Like, is it the Pistons?
I think by the nature of the sports, I'd go Pistons or Red Wings just by sheer chance to get into their respective leagues' playoffs.
Yeah.
People have been telling me to be patient with the Red Wings, and I'm no hockey guy. I follow it. I'm a bigger Grand Rapids Griffins fan than I am a Red Wings fan, which is, they seem to all be 4A guys. They're great here in Grand Rapids, and then they get to Detroit and they're the same guys, and they don't win. So, I mean, the Pistons with the rookie class that they had this year, you got to feel, I guess, the best about, even though they're not world beaters, but we had guys that we found at value. Sadiq Bey late in the first, Isaiah Stewart, I think late second. I'd have to check where he went, but in the second. Saban Lee, same thing. Guys that have been contributors now. Is Isaiah Stewart going to be a huge contributor on a championship NBA team or even a conference finals NBA team? That I'm not sold on. But you know what I mean? We found some value later with the Sadiq Beys and the Isaiah Stewarts and those nature picks where you feel, okay, now we get hopefully a 1, 2, 3 pick coming up and we can make some noise.
Right. And basketball is so, like, you're so swayed by having one generational player. Like, if we can just hit the lottery once, which I'm not saying we will, I'm really hopeful we will. But like, if we get one of those top 4 guys, add them to the core that we just built, I like the Pistons' chances, which I can't believe I'm saying. I've been so, like, I'm a Pistons fan, but I've been so anti that organization since they were trying to sneak into the 8th seed with Reggie Jackson and Josh Smith for the better part of a decade. I can't believe we're in a spot where there's a clean slate and some talent. I'm not used to it. I still think, like, people are down on the Tigers, and rightfully so, but there's pieces there too. And I know it's harder with a baseball rebuild. Like, you need to get some hitting. Right now, we've invested so much in pitching, and the guys in the minors aren't even hitting. So it's not an optimistic slate, but there's still a bunch of top end, quote unquote, talent in that farm system that I feel like at some point those guys got to make the jump and turn it around. But we'll see. I think if I could pick one to suddenly be a winner, I would personally pick the Pistons, but I still think we're a couple of years away with that unless we get Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And it's such a depressing question to even answer because, like you said, I mean, the prospects are bleak. With the Tigers, if some of those guys, I mean, we have Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, who had a nice outing yesterday, 2 nights ago. Mize has shown flashes, but it's like when you're drafting at number 1, I mean, think about number 1 guys like Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg, you know, guys of that nature. Now they have time. They're young. They have time to develop. But at the same time, I'm with you. You're in the show. We're ready to see it. And we picked number 1 2 out of 3 years. We got to have, now Spencer Torkelson's still young and he's not even in the show yet. But it's time to start seeing something because the Tigers have been trash for 6 straight years.
Right. Torkelson's also hitting 173 for the West Michigan Whitecaps right now.
Low A. So, you know, we'll figure that out. But
Tough break. It is what it is. We've both been through it, and there's millions of others like us, I'm sure, that are struggling with
We'll just
this.
keep on keeping on, man.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move to some winning teams. We just watched. Maybe it was hitting me watching this game that like we're watching our generation's version maybe of Magic Bird a little bit. Like LeBron versus Curry in a playoff setting, so many times it's been high stakes for titles, and now it's for an 8 seed or for a 7 seed. But it was still really enjoyable to watch. LeBron gets the better hand. He hits the big shot. He says he's seeing triple. I don't know if you're a LeBron fan or not, but what were you making of all of this as you watched it unfold?
Man, so I respect the hell out of LeBron. To me, he's the best to ever do it. There's no point in even talking about it. Just the things he does are unbelievable. But then he kind of like opens his mouth and does things that are just so unlikable. It's like, dude, you are like the coolest basketball player ever. Some of the stuff he does, you just like, even if you hate him or love him, you have to just stop and be like, wow, that was unbelievable. And then he just says some stuff like that. He says, I see 3 rims. I'm shooting at the middle. Whoa, I would hope you're shooting at the middle. I mean, I don't know how it looks when you're looking at 3, but my God. So anyways, quote aside, what an unbelievable shot. Like you said, those games are just high intensity, whether, like you said, whether it's for a 7 seed, for NBA finals. They kind of, I guess I haven't thought of it in the Bird and Magic sense, but I have no retort to that. I mean, it looks that for our generation, they probably are the most, when they match up, it's going to be, I mean, Steph's worth the price of admission, the shot he made before halftime. Some of the other shots and some of the attention that he commands, even when he's not making the shot or even taking the shot, that's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, I saw the Rashad Phillips, aka Yoda, on Twitter has been making this big deal about the 4th level instead of 3-level scores. Steph's the 4th level because it's like out to half court. You got to double team him. Like you set a screen and it's a hard hedge. It's a trap and it just opens up everything else so much. Guys like Jordan Poole all of a sudden are driving and crossing and trying to dunk on dudes.
I was watching Jordan Poole last night, and you watch some of these guys that you're very familiar with as a Michigan or Michigan State fan that you watch, and then you see him balling out, and Duncan Robinson's another guy I'd put in that group where you're like, oh, I didn't see this one coming. But
no,
but he, like you said, he's got some of those opportunities, and he makes the most of them. So kudos to him. But yeah, he was balling last night. But yeah, very entertaining game all the way through.
There was some Twitter back and forth this morning between my guy DK from Spartan Hoops and some Michigan fans about Draymond's performance. I mean, I didn't think Draymond was horrible. I think he was bad by Draymond standards. Like, he's going to be heavily involved, and he had a lot of turnovers, a lot of cheap fouls down the stretch. But, like, what's your take on that? Was Draymond part of the reason for the loss?
So I think I saw a little bit that DK had back and forth with those cats, and overall, if you're going to just look at a Draymond Green box score and then just go disparage his game, it's going to be, that's low-hanging fruit. And to be honest, you're not watching the game because he does have his fingerprints all over the game. He has some of the most unbelievable stat lines. He had a triple-double with 4 points, So I think he had 10 steals that game. And it was like he had like 16 rebounds, 12 assists. I'm probably butchering his stat line, but it's unbelievable stat lines. And yeah, I mean, he had a bad game in sense of the turnovers. And like you said, a couple fouls late, he had the bad one on LeBron where he sent him seeing 3 rims. So by his standards, yeah, he could play better. But no, I mean, to me, they run when they're dumping away from these double, triple, quadruple teams that Steph gets. A lot of those times, it's him at the top of the key, and now he's setting the offense for Looney down low, Poole out wide, whatever that looks like. And honestly, they got a ragtag bunch out there, beyond Draymond Green. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. And the fact that they're even in the 8th spot in the West and competing and have a chance against Memphis tomorrow is really, to me, a testament to, obviously, Steph Curry is the NBA scoring champ, and Draymond Green is that glue that kind of touches all aspects of the game.
Yeah, if it was just Curry, I don't think they're even in the spot to be in the play-in. Like, Curry's great, don't get me wrong, but like, you need a second piece like that. And Draymond's been that second piece all season, really his whole career. Third piece when Clay's around. That's why that's been such a special team. So I give him credit. I think they're going to beat the Grizzlies pretty easily. I'd be surprised by that.
I think so too. I think the Grizz could hang, but they just strike me when you get in these playoff elimination settings. They just strike me as a bit young, and the NBA is a grown man's league, and I could see them having it tight into 6 minutes left and end up losing 6 to 12 points, something like that.
Draymond versus Jaren Jackson and Xavier Tillman will be fun, though. That will
a lot of Spartan dogs in the play-in. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but
I think it's a good thing. There's a bunch of Iggy Brasdakises that I don't know where they're going to be tomorrow night.
Valid.
All right, let's move to the East. We're recording this midway through the Wizards-Pacers game. The Wizards are up about 20 points right now. The Celtics with the big win over the Wizards a couple nights ago. It's been kind of chalky, I would say, as far as the two games go. What do you make of this? Are there threats that are going to come out of these games that could potentially win a series?
I mean, well, the Lakers are hard to pick against back in the West, just because they're the defending champs and they have the best player in the world and two of top 3, top 5, however you want to call that. Other than that, I think this is really just a drum up of interest. I'll give the NBA credit. A lot of people have dogged this idea. I'm not crazy about it, but like you said, I think for the majority of seasons and this season, you're going to end up with the 7-8 winning these games anyways. It just drums up a little bit of drama, interest, and then I think you end up with 7-8 regardless. It could obviously go crazy in certain years, but yeah, the Lakers are really the only team that strike me as in the NBA. You're kind of, when you're getting down to these 7, 8, 9, 10, the Lakers are a little bit of an exception this year because of some of the injuries and how the season unfolded for them. But for the most part, I really don't think you're going to see a ton of noise-making playoff teams out of these. But I appreciate the drama of these kind of knockout games in the NBA that you don't see a ton.
Yeah, I will never complain about hoops, especially high-level hoops. I mean, Tuesday night in May, like, I'll take that. I think the fear for me is like, and I like the Grizzlies. Don't get me wrong. I like Ja Morant. I like Jaren Jackson. They're a fun team to watch, but I'm going to be pretty upset if we lose 7 games of Steph Curry versus just a flimsy play-in game where the Grizz sneak away with it. I don't think that's going to happen, but like, that's what the NBA is putting themselves at risk for right now, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So we'll see.
See, I think the whole thing could be drawn back to trying to get Zion in, and it didn't work. Where maybe sometimes they're trying to push these 9-10 teams, and it kind of depends on how it falls out. And then when the Pelicans are just terrible and can't figure it out, then the plan doesn't work. I think the Grizzlies could be an exciting young team to get into the 8 seed, but I'm with you. Like, the TV draw is going to be with the Warriors.
Yeah. And in most years, it wouldn't matter because the teams that are at the 7-8 spot, like you said, are teams we don't really care about losing. We don't expect them to win. Like, the fact that we get LeBron James versus Steph Curry in the play-in game spot is crazy to me. Maybe a sign of things to come. Maybe teams will start taking the regular season a little more seriously. Like, you won't see guys out with quote unquote injuries for a month and a half at a time, but it's interesting. The NBA is always evolving. It's always fun to watch, no doubt, but it will be a little devastating to me if we don't get Curry, because I think the Warriors could make a run if they do win that game tomorrow night.
You think they would give the Jazz, you're willing to go on the record as saying they give the Jazz trouble in the 1-8?
I think they give them trouble. I think that series goes 6 or 7, 6 minimum. I mean, I don't know. Is Donovan Mitchell healthy? Is he back?
I'd have to check into Donovan Mitchell's status. And I was also going to mention that the Jazz just feel like the most slept on 1 seed of all time. I'm sleeping on them too. I'm willing to say that. I'm dead asleep. But they're the 1 seed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't hear a ton of noise about them, but they are Utah, you know.
Right. I mean, they're good, and Donovan Mitchell's always good in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't think I am taking the Jazz seriously yet, and I'm definitely most afraid of Steph Curry of everybody in that series if they get there.
I mean, their opponent will have the best player on the floor in the 1-8 if it is the Warriors. And then if they advance, if you look forward, they'd be playing the Clippers Mavericks winner, which they would also probably be spotting the best player on the floor again. If they were to advance, and with Luka Doncic or Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, however you want to split that. Kawhi Leonard most likely. I know Cart will resent that, but they'd probably be spotting the best player on the floor once again, which a lot of times these NBA playoff series seem to be of utmost importance.
Yeah. So let's pivot and let's do kind of a full first round run through real quick. Let's try to go like series by series and just flag who we think are going to win these. Starting in the East, we got the Sixers as the 1 seed. It looks like they're going to get the Wizards. I think the Sixers probably run through that series.
Easy 4-0 blow to me, maybe 4-1. if Russ and Beal can kind of cook something together, 70, 80 points in a game. They have that ability, but 4-0, 4-1 Sixers.
Yeah, same here. All right, 2 seed, the Nets, probably the most firepower in the East. Against the Celtics, that's an intriguing one for me, but with no Jaylen Brown, it's got to be tough.
Jaylen Brown's a killer. The Nets, it's tough to call them because have we seen them at full strength a handful of times? But the Nets went 3-0 against the Celtics in the regular season, 2 blowouts, and then the one that was a close game, no Harden, no Durant, and Kyrie, I want to say went like 4 for 19, and the Nets still won that ball game. So again, intriguing. Tatum can ball, and the Celtics have some talent, but without Jaylen Brown, 4-1, 4-2 maybe.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Tatum go for 50 more often than we're going to see close games, which will be fun. Still fun to watch.
Hey, we'll take it.
3-6, the defending Eastern champs, Miami Heat, as the 6th seed against Giannis and the Bucks as the 3. That's probably the series I'm most excited about. I could see it going both ways, mostly because I have an agenda against Giannis in the playoffs. I don't think his style of play can necessarily get to a finals series from what I've seen.
I'm right there side by side with you. Not only his style of play, but also their roster construction. They have good players like Chris Middleton. I thought when Malcolm Brogdon left the door for them, that's the type of player. Obviously, he's progressed pretty well. You can't really see that coming, but he was a good player with the Bucks. Where in the playoffs, like you said, Giannis's style, teams just kind of pack it in, not going to let him drive the way he does and create. And then is Chris Middleton going to win you a game or 2 in the playoffs? You know what I mean? Like some of the Bledsoes are they going to get it done 4 times out of great teams? So this is the most interesting first round series in the East. Miami, obviously being the defending champs, they were the 5 seed last year, so they defied odds. Were kind of a quirky NBA team to come out of the COVID reset where you don't typically see teams seeded that highly pass through. So I would put the Bucks on upset alert here. I'd probably take them to pass through 1 round, but I like a little of Miami spice here, as an underdog.
Yeah, I hope that series goes long, and I can already tell, like, whoever loses that, the fans are going to be so pissed because either way, that's just like an underachieving year Giannis is going to get a lot of shit if they lose this series. And if the defending Eastern champs can't get out of round 1, there's going to be questions to ask.
Yeah. The Bucks will run into that tricky spot where you've been competitive and been good. And are you going to be patient with it? It's like the Bo Pelini, Nebraska football. Do you want to go 9-3 forever? But then they fired him, and then they started going 4-8. So then they were like, maybe that 9-3 wasn't that bad. So they're going to kind of be in that position if they lose early here this year, first year, second round, where it's like, okay, we're competitive, we're there, but are you really there? Probably not.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, with either team that they might get impatient.
Yeah. And then flip side, 4-5, Knicks, Hawks, 2 teams that are ecstatic just to be in the playoffs. Trae Young's first playoff appearance, Julius Randle's first playoff appearance. I could see that going both ways. I'm rooting for the Hawks because I am a pretty big Trae Young fan. I would like to see him back up that he's one of the best point guards in the game instead of just a gimmick offensively. But I also think this is a series the Hawks can win. Like I'm not taking the Knicks seriously as a contender yet. I think the Hawks are deeper. So give me the Hawks in like 5 or 6.
Okay, so I think this would be a relatively competitive series, but I'm going to lean the Knicks. So I'm going to fade you here.
Okay.
Just because I think Derrick Rose might be able to give Trae Young some of that let me show you young blood type feels. And I overall and the Knicks, worth noting, also went 3-0 in the regular season against the Hawks. One of them was an overtime game, so the Hawks were right there. So I'm with you. Trae Young's an incredibly exciting player. I love Julius Randle's game.
Yeah.
He reminds me of a guy that just, like in a Gus Macker, is just dominating people down low, and then people are trying to hack him and, jump on him, and he's dishing, he's making finishes. Love his game. And I'm going to go with the Knicks. I think they're exciting. The Knicks being in just make the Eastern Conference playoffs feel a little bit more rough and tumble and fun. And they're like folks our age really haven't seen that much. Like when we were young, they made it, and then they kind of faded out. They had a couple Carmelo years, and then we haven't really seen much of them since. So I'm kind of just excited for the Knicks to be back in. I have no allegiance to the Knicks, but I just think they're like a good franchise to get back into the playoffs and kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And to this day, Julius Randle is the most impressive college player that I've ever seen with my own eyes in person. Champions Classic, first big event of the season that year, Michigan State, Julius Randle there. And I mean, just in warmups, he's doing like drop step 360 between the legs, dunks. He's hitting step back threes. In fact, people made fun of me for years for saying Julius Randle is going to be an NBA All-Star one day. I'm really happy
here we
he backed
are.
it up.
Was that the 1-2 Kentucky Michigan State matchup that Coach K, or excuse me, not Coach K, Coach Calipari said was not fair afterwards because Michigan State had veterans and he has neither here nor there. But that game wasn't fair according to Cal.
Correct. And fun one to be at still. Coach Cal on his bullshit like he always is. So, all right, quickly to the West. We're going to get Utah versus the winner of Golden State Memphis. We already hit on that, so let's just skate past that. We'll go to 2. Phoenix Suns against the Lakers. Super fun series. I got to ride with Bron until proven wrong, though.
Can't bet against him. He's like Tom Brady, man. And it feels like such a tough break for the Phoenix Suns. They've been Phoenix was another city that came up in my research of misery. They're kind of in a tough stretch here from 2010 to 2019, kind of extending to now. So the Suns, great story, great season. Like you said, I can't bet against Brown until he proves me otherwise. So I'm going to ride with that.
I'm also going to be in the front row of the Chris Paul playoff bandwagon if they lose this series again. I respect him, what he did this season. It really did change my mind on the narrative of Chris Paul, but like, what a tough break for that guy.
Yeah, it's just a tough matchup, and they're a fun story. I'd like to see them go on because I think they're a young, fun team, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
All right, 3-6, the Nuggets against the Trailblazers. Another fun series. If Jamal Murray was healthy, I'm ready to go all in on a Nuggets playoff run. But this seems like it's kind of opening up for the Dame Lillard heroics to come back into the forefront.
It seems a little bit as such where that might be Denver's like big defensive Achilles heel, where they got guys like Michael Porter Jr., and kind of guard the middle. You obviously got Jokic. No one really knows him for his defense, but that Jamal Murray matching up there, it kind of seems like what they would need to be. And it's kind of crazy. They're the 3, Portland's the 6. I think it'll get spicy. I will take Denver in 6 or 7. I think Portland pushes them, but I'm with you. I think Denver's run kind of ends after that. If they had Jamal Murray, I think if they caught either the Suns or the Lakers there in that second round, they could cause trouble. I mean, Jokic he's having an unreal season. He's a lot of fun to watch. Just kind of that gumpy white guy that you might pick up at the park, and you don't give him much credit. And then he makes kind of a goofy shot, and you're like, okay, was that lucky? But then he does it a second time, and you're like, oh, that might be in his bag. Like he has that shot. And then he does it 14 times, and you're like, whoa. And he's, dropping 12 rebounds and 10 assists. So I'm going to take Denver because I think Jokic pushes him over the edge, but I'm with you. I think that Jamal Murray is the chink in the armor that they really need, and Dame Lillard is the guy to find that chink.
Yeah, that'll be a fun series. Jokic is the guy, like, he's your friend you go to IM West with just to, like, kind of school people. Like, everyone wants to play you because they think you're nothing, and then all of a sudden you beat them 12-2, and you're running the court the whole rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, and you're chipping, and you're like 1 or 2, and he's putting in 9.
Yeah, and I really want to see Jokic win in the playoffs just to shut people up about his whole MVP campaign this year. So I will be rooting for whoever comes out of that series, I think. And then another fun one, 4-5, Clippers, Mavs. Luka had the big moment in the playoffs last year in the bubble. The Clippers, Paul George had his troubles. This is another chance for those narratives to come back up. I think the Clippers are probably the favorite. I just think they're better and more solid with depth, but it's still really hard for me to be confident in these guys.
So this is the series that my college basketball fan wants to pick the Mavericks and be like, oh yeah, they can get this thing done. But I'm with you. The total roster top to bottom, which in these best of 7 series in NBA always rings true for the most part. You get a couple coaching things that make it here or there, or a couple just superb performances from individuals. But overall, the best rosters are going to win. The Clippers, I just see as a better team. I'd love to watch Luka have a couple electric performances. I think they can push it 6 or 7. ultimately I'm going to take the Clippers, even though I think they're frauds, but I think they'll at least win here in the first round. I'm in card seat, so I gotta trash the Clippers a little bit.
You have to. You did your role well. And there's still, listen, if the Clippers win round 1, there's plenty of time for the frauds to come out. We're still early in this narrative. All right. Well, I'm hyped for the playoffs in general. This weekend will be really fun. I'll be on the couch watching a ton of basketball, so you can't.
A lot of hoops.
All right. Last topic. There was a no-hitter this week, and it just so happened to come the same day that you were tweeting about Detroit sports misery. I might go so far as to say this could be the first step that has turned things around, and it was maybe initiated by your research in general. But my question to you is, 1, did you watch the no-hitter? And 2, how happy should Tigers fans be? Like, can we celebrate a no-hitter while being a terrible team?
Hey, so I mean, it's great, and no hitters are fun, and of course, Detroit fans can't have anything nice. So of course, we're in last place. Well, the Twins have actually saved us out of last place, but near the bottom, and it's on a West Coast game. So no, I did not watch it. I was asleep, and I wake up, I go, "Oh, Spencer Turnbull threw a no hitter. That's great." And then of course, it's in the NBA or in the MLB season at the point where we're the 5th no hitter before June, and then on Wednesday, Corey Kluber throws one. The following day, as everyone's like, "Oh, we're tired of no hitters," so supposedly they're not in anymore because they're too prevalent. Kind of maybe some of that swing for the fences type mentality that hitters have. And I saw a stat: the Mariners, this was their 2nd time getting no hit. They got no hit earlier in the season, and this is their 2nd time already, and they're hitting 199 as a team. So Turnbull faced 29 batters. 199 extrapolates out to 5 hits, so he kept them 5 below their average. But anyways, no, it's exciting. I mean, Turnbull's been a guy that has shown flashes, and if you could see consistency out of him, he doesn't seem like a top level guy like a Verlander, but he seems like a guy that, maybe Anibal Sanchez when he was on some of those good teams, where he's that 3rd starter that you just know is going to give you a 6 and has that ability to throw that type of stuff. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to see a player. I mean, if you do that at the MLB level, I don't care how many people have done it in the season. It's a great accomplishment to no hit an MLB roster, whether it's the Mariners or the Yankees or whoever else. So yeah, it's exciting, but I don't think I'm not jumping up and down.
Yeah, I think that's the appropriate answer. I actually did stay up and watch it. I was not watching the game. I saw the buzz on Twitter. And obviously, everyone's doing the thing where you can't say no hitter, but it's like something.
But you're saying it by not saying it,
which I think is the dumbest thing ever. Like, whatever, just fucking say it, man. Like, we all know what we're talking about here. And it was like midnight East Coast time. I flip it on, and at that point, I'm anticipating this to go as long as it can go. And then, like, 1 out in the 9th, there's a bloop single to left. And then it's 1:15 a.m. and I'm pissed at myself for staying up. So I'm happy I did watch it. Turnbull was electric. I mean, I don't watch the Tigers every day, but I've seen him pitch. I've never seen him pitch like that. Yeah. I mean, the stuff had extra zip. It was dynamic. And quick shout out, Chris Castellani, another Lansing dude, just hired by Barstool Sports, one of the best Detroit Tigers follows that you could get. Super happy for him with that news, but he's got all the post-game video stuff. He said for years that it's not about the stuff with Turnbull. It's about command. It's about consistency. And for one night, he put it all together. That's the ceiling of him as a pitcher. And it was fun to see. And hopefully it's something to build off, because when you pair that with what Casey Mize did this week and maybe what Tariq Skubal is starting to put together,
you get some of these young, and that could be, kind of like our 2011 to 2014 run, where our starting 5 was just, you're not going to stop us. Now Scherzer, Verlander were top level guys. Not saying we're going to get that, but where there's no holes in the starting 5. So that's hopefully what we're building towards. And hopefully Turnbull can be one of those guys. He's looked like it at times. Other times he's looked like a Toledo mud. So yeah, I'm with you. So, but good to see and a fun thing to see. So whether I wake up at 6:30 in the morning and see it as a headline or watch it live at 1 in the morning. So
yeah, it's a smile inducing event, which is rare these days for us.
I will take it.
We'll take it. All right. Any last words? Is Carter Elliott officially on the hot seat? He might be.
I mean, I hope so. I guess we'll see what the fans like. I appreciate you guys having me out. This was fun, kind of getting on and just talking to Detroit sports, talking hoops. That's what I do. So yeah, man, appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully put Card on the hot seat. And if not, we'll see. And hopefully he's under that 112. But you're right. I might have given him a little generous on that if he's counting them straight.
Yeah, we'll come back and get the report Monday. If you combine golf swings with just liquor shots taken, I bet he hit 112 for the weekend.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So we'll get that report on Monday. Anyways, appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, take it easy, man.
Peace.